Welcome again everyone, this is Yasser from Learn Dental Series. Today we will continue the second lecture in discussing fundamentals of tooth preparation. Let me disclaim firstly that I don't receive fees, compensation or royalties from the sales of any of the products shown or discussed. Also, I declare that I haven't any conflict of interest with any of the discussed products and technique. Also, I would like to announce again that this presentation is copyright protected and could not be reproduced, distributed, or transmitted by any electronic or mechanical means without written permission from me. We already discussed part 1 in terms of introduction, definition, needs and objectives, and what is the considerations prior to tooth preparation, and we started to discuss principles of tooth preparation. We finished biological principles in full details in terms of pulp protection against thermal, mechanical, and chemical irritation, and the prevention of caries recurrence, preservation of tooth supporting structure, and finally accepting working field. Now we will start to discuss in full detail the mechanical principles, including obtaining the outline form, performing resistance and retention forms, convenience form, removal of remaining infected dentine, finishing of enamel and external cavity walls, and finally cleaning of the cavity. If we started by mechanical principles, as we referred or as we reviewed the Journal of History of Dentistry, there is a paper in 2005, okay, this paper titled Significant Events in History of Operative Dentistry. In this reference, we discovered that these mechanical principles was firstly assigned by Grenier Black in 1891. Okay, it was the first time more than 130 years ago. Okay, these principles were firstly introduced by Grenier Black, which is termed as the father of modern dentistry. One of his quotes is very important. He said that the professional man has no right to be other than continuous student. That's why its principles or his principles is improved, and till this time, from this time till now, all advancement or recent techniques or recent advances on operative dentistry based on his principles didn't stop till now, okay, in a trial to conserve as much as possible of tooth structure. This is the G.V. Black statue in Lincoln Park, Illinois, Chicago, United States of America. Again, I would like to remember you that the mechanical principles aims to provide maximum resistance against fracture to the remaining healthy tooth structure and the restoration, maximum retention to the restoration against displacement, with maximum conservation of tooth structure, and you could replace this statement with another statement as follows: with minimal cutting of tooth structure. According to Grenier Black, the mechanical steps are obtaining the outline form, performing resistance and retention, convenience form, removal of remaining infected dentine, finishing of enamel wall and external cavity walls, and finally number 6, cleaning of the cavity wall. In case where there is an extensive carious lesion, step number 4, which is the removal of remaining infected dentine, should be replaced by number 2, okay, and the sequence will be as follows: obtaining the outline form, removal of remaining infected dentine, performing resistance and retention forms, convenience form, finishing of enamel and external cavity walls, and finally cleaning of the cavity. The question is why you replace this and do you change the sequence of events, okay, to get the removal of remaining carious dentine or defective restoration immediately after the mental imaging of outline form. If you imagine this is an extensive carious lesion, okay, in such a case, you will design the outline form, okay, like that. This is the initial outline form, and number 2, you should remove all defective restoration to evaluate the following, okay. Number 1, this will be the final restoration, and you need to justify and determine the degree of bulbal involvement, okay. How I could design resistance, retention, convenience, and when I come to the removal of remaining carious dentine, I discovered that the bulb is involved okay, or the carious lesion is already exposing the bulb. Even if the bulb is not involved and healthy and safe enough, you need to evaluate the amount and strength of remaining sound tooth structure firstly, okay? That will determine the most suitable restorative technique and most suitable cavity design. If you design the cavity and while you are removing a caries, you discover that all walls are undermined, okay? You may change to either bonded restoration to conserve the undermined enamel by cross-tying, by using bonding agent, cross-tying the strong with the vulnerable cusps, okay, to strengthen the weak cusp area, okay. Or you may refer to indirect restoration. You may change your plan into full coverage, okay. That's why the tooth preparation stages are classified nowadays into initial stage and final stage, okay, because in certain cases you may, after removal of caries, you may review again your resistance and retention forms, okay, and perform what is called secondary resistance and secondary retention, okay. After you design your outline form, you cut the cavity, you design the resistance and retention, but after you remove the caries, you discover that all these features are removed due to you already expose the cavity, or you already expand the cavity much more, and you already deleted all your features for resistance and retention, okay. That's why you are in need to review and to add secondary resistance and secondary retention. That's why in different textbooks, okay, and different reviews may classify the steps of cavity preparation into two stages: initial stage and final stage. Initial stage aims to access into enamel to reach the depth of the lesion at the dentino-enamel junction, fully expose the carious lesion or defect by lateral extension, and placement and orientation of preparation walls to resist fracture. That's what's called primary resistance, okay, and primary retention. Then the final stage, after accurate management of the defect or a complete elimination of the defect or the lesion, okay, the tooth is isolated, and you think about the protection of the bulb and re-enhance the consistency for good prognosis, okay, by performing secondary resistance and retention. And at this time, the steps will be as follows. Step number 1 is the initial tips and outline. Step number 2, primary resistance. Step number 3, primary retention. Step number 4, convenience 4. Then comes the final stage, step number 5, removal of defective restoration. You may at this area, or at this step number 5, you may finish your preparation if it is initial or moderate carious lesion. But for extensive carious lesion, you need to go forward for the other steps for bulb protection, secondary resistance and retention, external wall finishing, and the final procedure of debridement and inspection. Let us start with obtaining the outline form, okay, and we will discuss it in terms of definition, fundamental rules, and factors modifying the outline form. The outline form is defined as the external shape of the final completed cavity, which is this line, okay. This line, when you cut the cavity, every point at this line constitute a cavo surface angle. Then you could define it as the pattern of cavo surface angle, okay. The cavo surface angle, how it runs along your preparation, okay. This is the pattern of cavo surface angle, okay. Those are the two definitions of outline form. How you achieve or perform or obtain your outline form. You have fundamental rules that should be applied for all cavities, okay. No discussion, no doubt about it. It should be designed, okay. And other factors is called factors modifying the outline form, which is not always available for all designs. It differs according to the tooth, according to the lesion. You may expand one of the factors or fundamental rules according to what is modifying this rule, okay. Let us go on, okay, and start with the fundamental rules of outline form. First of all, the same as we discussed in the previous lecture, under the title of prevention of caries recurrence. Number one, all circumference of carious lesion must be included. That's a common sense because you are preparing a cavity to remove a carious lesion. But you should note that, okay, in this step, you are removing the caries in horizontal plane, in buccolingual and mesiodistal directions, not in depth. Okay, in depth, it will be the responsibility of step number 4, removal of remaining carious dentine. That's why we termed it remaining. Okay, because already you removed the caries. This is number 1 in mechanical principles, the first rule in the first principle, which is outline form. Number 2, all bits and fissures, okay, and grooves or retentive areas should be included. Okay, that's also to avoid caries recurrence because these are stagnation areas or vulnerable areas. Number 3, cavity must be extended to area self-cleansable, okay, to be extended to sound tooth structure without undermining the enamel, which is a cusp inclined plane. And as we discussed before, all caries and undermined enamel must be removed, otherwise it will be fragmented, leaving ditch that will result in recurrent caries. And finally, the outline form should be in a form of sweeping harmonious curves, roundation of all sharp line angles, okay, to prevent caries recurrence, as sharp line angles act as a hook, okay, at the same time to avoid stress concentration, and in anterior region it's a better form for aesthetic. And number 6, cavities approaching each other must be connected to avoid leaving a weak ridge that may fracture. Okay, let us imagine this is a simple class 1, okay, in upper first molar, leaving the oblique ridge intact as it is. But after you finished and inspect the cavities, you discovered that there is a caries extension, okay, along the groove that passing across the oblique ridge, or there is a definite groove, okay, at this area. When you extend your mesial cavity to involve this lesion, you will discover that, as you see this red arrow, that the oblique ridge becomes very weak, that may fracture, or surely it will fracture. Okay, according to this rule, you are in need to connect them to avoid leaving weak ridge that may fracture. Okay, let us discuss this photo. Okay, another upper 7, when we prepare 2 separate cavities, okay, and after removing of caries, we discovered that the oblique ridge becomes very thin that may fracture. Okay, according to this rule, connect it, okay, in lower 4, where you have a transverse ridge. When you prepare 2 snake eyes small cavities, but the ridge becomes very weak, okay, then in order to prevent its fracture, open it. Okay, but when you decide to use adhesive restoration such as composite resin, and you will use adhesive dentine bonding agent, you are not in need to open this weak ridge or to connect these 2 cavities, because the advantages of using dentine adhesive, it's an adhesive material that will connect the weak structure with strong structure, that will connect this weak ridge, okay, with the other strong cusps and walls. And at the same time, when the forces applied to a weak structure via this adhesive, it will be transmitted to the strong one, and there will be a sharing manner between the weak and strong structures, okay, of the components of the system that allows to reinforce the weak tooth structure. The final one of the rules of fundamentals of outline form is extension for prevention or cutting for immunity. What is extension for prevention or cutting for immunity? It was described by G.V. Black, and as we mentioned before, it was 130 years ago, 130 years ago, okay, in 1891. Okay, maximum extension of the cavity margin to area self-cleansable, to swear that there will not be a food stagnation, okay, at the margins. That means that this cavity is not considered by GV Black, it is in a self-cleansable, or its margins it is located in a self-cleansable area. GV Black prefers this extension for prevention as maximum as possible, and this will be the shape of the cavity. This extension of prevention having adverse effects. Number one, you are weakening the tooth structure, and at the same time you are weakening the restoration, because the restoration surface area exposed to force and its shearing force, okay, intolerating force will be increased. The same time, okay, the tooth structure will be decreased in size and it will be weakened, and this will not be compatible with the aim of mechanical principles, which was, okay, I will remember you again, okay, as I mentioned few minutes ago, okay, maximum resistance against fracture. Where is the maximum resistance against fracture? You are weakening the restoration and you are weakening the tooth structure, okay, with maximum conservation of tooth structure. Where is the maximum conservation of tooth structure? You are weakening the tooth structure, okay. As you cut much more, you are irritating the bulb. If you remember in the chapter of histological considerations of tooth histology and physiology, each square millimeter of dentine or unnecessary cutting of just 1 square millimeter of dentine, you are exposing about from 20 thousandths up to 45 thousandths of dentinal tubules, okay, and you are increasing the chance for irritating the bulb by 20 thousandths up to 45 thousandths, okay, via the dentinal tubules. Then when you apply this concept extension for prevention, you are already irritating the bulb. If you are working in class 2, there is a greater chance for irritating the gingival and periodontal structure, okay. In addition to, you are increasing the surface area of your margin that will be attacked by dental caries again. And all of these are against the concept of biological principles and mechanical principles also, because you are weakening the tooth structure and the restoration. That's why in a trial to explain what is the excuse of Grenet, Verdum and Black, he already the one who stated that maximum conservation and maximum resistance and maximum retention, okay, and this extension for prevention is against his rules, okay. In a trial to understand, we find 3 excuses, okay, or we could conclude 3 excuses in expense of, okay. This was assigned and stated 130 years ago. Number 1, at this era, okay, the bare sizes, okay, and the milling machines to construct a bare was not so accurate just to prepare or to produce or to manufacture a small bare like the sizes used nowadays, okay. That's why he has already a large bare, okay. Number 2, at this time there isn't any diagnostic tools that will help to diagnose caries at its early stage. Most of cases already came to him, okay, with this extensive damage, okay, already it is extended, okay. At the same time, the patient at this era haven't enough knowledge about the oral hygiene and how to practice home hygiene or prophylactic measures. That's why number 7, extension for prevention, is currently not valid, okay. Let us then go for factors modifying the outline form design. There are 8 factors that modify your design of outline form. It may require more extension or may require lesser extension, okay. These factors are patient age, oral hygiene, physical properties of selected restorative material, technique of construction of restoration, aesthetic needs, convenience needs, presence of weak cusp, okay, dimension of the contact area in cases of proximal lesions. Young age or the patient age, the anatomical features are obvious, are well determined. Okay, that's why when you are designing class 1, you should involve all bits and fissures. While in old age, okay, if you have a lesion of the same size, but you have also attrition and all anatomical features was deleted, okay, was erased by the action of attrition. That's why the outline form will be limited, because all the surface or most of the surface is rendered to be smooth surface. Oral hygiene, when the oral hygiene is good, okay, then you will design an ultra conservative outline. When the oral hygiene is bad or the patient could not follow home prophylactic measures, okay, you should follow the rules and the outline should include all bits and fissures. Figure number A in a good oral hygiene patient. Figure number B is in a bad oral hygiene patient, okay, you could note the extension. For brittle materials require minimal width and maximum depth. Width is identified as from 1/4 to 1/3 of the intercuspal distance, while the depth, okay, should be or should assure 2 millimeter thickness of the material. Okay, in order to decrease the surface area of restoration subjected to force. While ductile materials, no bulk or width specifications are needed because it has a high strength properties. According to the technique of construction, indirectly constructed restoration, that means that you take an impression, okay, and converted it into a die, and you already construct the wax pattern, invest the wax pattern, okay, casting to the material, and the material comes in a rigid form, okay, in a precise measures to the cavity, and then cemented into place. Okay, as it is processed indirectly, actually, according to the material, you use the cast gold restoration, but actually as a gold, considering the physical properties of the material, you are not in need to increase the outline form, because it's a highly ductile material with high strength properties. But actually, due to the technique involves, number one, impression materials, okay, you need enough bulk to avoid tearing of the material, okay, you are using a wax pattern, wax is brittle. For the casting procedure, okay, you couldn't cast a very thin area, back pressure porosity will take place, okay, that's why you are in need to increase the outline form, to increase the mass of wax pattern and casting for the ease and accurate manipulation of impression and wax pattern, and for the casting of the material. According to aesthetic needs, you need minimal cutting of tooth structure to conserve the maximum amount of natural tooth structure with natural aesthetic. Also, you could leave undermined enamel at the labial surface for class 3. Undermined enamel, you are warning us from undermining enamel. Okay, it will fracture and leave ditching that may fracture, okay, and the recurrent caries will take place. But at this area, at the labial wall, and I will discuss it in details, let us discuss it in details at this diagram, okay, this is class 3, okay, and this is the labial wall. If it is undermined, okay, leave it as it is for the purpose of aesthetic, okay, because nothing could restore perfectly and accurately the natural aesthetic of tooth structure. Okay, طيب, could it undergo fracture? No, because no direct force is applied at this area, only your lip or musculature. Okay, for class 5, your cervical wall should be parallel to the cervical line and the height of contour, and also the incisal wall should be the same. This will allow the light reflection to be in the same direction. That's why you couldn't notice, okay, where is the margin of the restoration and the margin of the tooth structure. This is some sort of optical illusion. This is called graceful curve. Okay. Number 6, convenience needs. For convenience to work in ease, you need to extend the outline form to have a room to work, especially for class 2 and class 3. For class 2 in this area, how could you access the proximal without opening the occlusal? In such a case, the occlusal opening, this is an extension of the outline form, this is extra outline form, and is considered as convenience to reach the proximal. The same for class 3, okay? Class 3 in the proximal of anterior teeth, but your approach for convenience should be from the palatal. Otherwise, you couldn't access because of the neighboring tooth. Then comes the other type or second type of extension, which is extension for convenience. The first extension was extension for prevention, which is currently not valid. Extension for convenience, which is currently limited. Okay? Then now, up till now, we collect two types of extension. Okay, one of them extension for prevention. It is not valid now. Okay, we didn't design it. And extension for convention, which is currently limited. Number 7, presence of weak cusp. What is meant by weak cusp? When the base of the cusp is equal or greater than its height, this is a strong cusp. When the base of the cusp is lesser than its height, this is considered as a weak cusp. This weak cusp, how could you calculate it? Okay, from the center of your cavity, where there was a fissure there, and we cut it, okay, till the cusp tip, okay, divide it into 3/3. If your cusp occupying only 1/3, okay, the cusp is considered weak. Okay, and the extension will be more than 2/3 from the center of the cavity or the tooth up to the cusp tip. Okay, then what is the effect of weak cusp and why you are worried about it? Okay, when the patient start to masticate, okay, the vertical force is analyzed into two horizontal components. Okay, the weak cusp could not withstand and it will split under force. Okay, like this. Okay, this is a weak one. The force applied, vertical force is, or compressive force is transformed into two tensile forces, wedging this cusp, and it will fracture or damage. Okay, how could you treat or solve this problem? Okay, I couldn't increase the base because already you cut it, but you could reduce the height. At this condition, okay, here we already extend the cavity to cut the tip of the cusp, allowing at least 2 millimeters, and this is called the cusp tipping when the restoration is amalgam or composite brittle material. And this extended the outline form when it was supposed to finish at this black line to be finished at this area. Okay, then presence of weak cusp extended the cavity to another area just to reduce the height of the cusp because you couldn't add to the base. For cast gold, you are not in need to cut 2 millimeters, just allow for beveling, bevel and counter bevel, and it is called cusp coverage. This is the final shape of cusp tipping. Okay, this is the weak cusp. We already could not increase the base. Already we cut the tooth structure for the cavity design. Okay, this was the extension of the caries who obliges us to do this. Okay, but we could reduce the height of the cusp, allow a room for at least 2 millimeters of amalgam, okay, just to support this weak cusp, and it's called cusp tipping. For cast restorations, okay, as you could see, just beveling of the weak cusp to be covered, okay, and this is called cusp coverage with high strength properties material. Again, when you are using an adhesive restorative material, okay, such as composite, you are benefit from the adhesive dentistry and the dentine bonding agent. you are not in need for cusp tipping or cusp capping, okay, with composite resin, because you already cross tying the weak cusp with the strong one. You transfer the stress via the dentine adhesive from the weak cusp to the strong one, and you are reinforcing the weak cusp unless the enamel is friable and extremely weak. Number 8, the dimensions of proximal contact area in buccolingual width and occlusomesial dimensions. Let's start with buccolingual width. The buccolingual width of the contact area affects the isthmus portion outline of class 2 cavity preparation, because the general fundamental rules that the cavity walls should be in area self-cleansable. The area self-cleansable here is the embrasure. Then I should determine the buccolingual width of the contact area. This is the buccolingual width of the contact area. Okay, the blue arrow. When you come from the occlusal, passing through the isthmus, okay, to open the cavity and to get the walls in the embrasure, okay, in such a case, now you are just in the embrasure, okay, and the cavo surface angle is 90, as you could notice here, okay. This is called straight outline in case of narrow contact buccolingual, okay. If the contact is moderate, especially in the buccal area, you note that the outline is changed to be much more uniform in a curved pattern, okay, to allow the wall of the isthmus to be in the embrasure, okay. Then this is straight and this is uniform. In case of moderate contact buccolingually, the uniform isthmus outline will take place. If the contact area is broad, when you cut it in a uniform pattern, then it will drive you away. As you notice that, you take the curve and get away. I would like to be at the head of the arrow. Okay, there is a great distance, and at the same time, I cut already great amount of tooth structure, and at the same time, this cavo surface angle is not 90. Okay, the rule is to go in a uniform pattern, and before you going out, just reverse it to be at the head of the arrow, like this. And this is called reverse curve in case of the contact is broad in a buccolingual dimension, like this photo, okay, or this figure, okay. You are here the uniform, now you are running in a uniform pattern, and finally you reverse it, okay, to be at the start point of the buccal embrasure. Then this curve, reverse curve isthmus outline, ensures that the cavo surface angle is 90 and this triangular area is preserved. Okay, this is another tooth. You could note that, okay, number 1 is a reverse curve, number 2, 3, and 4 are uniform curve. Please note that always you are in need for the reverse curve towards the buccal, not the lingual. Why? Because always, if you remember from the previous chapter, the contact is shifted toward the buccal area, not towards the lingual area. Okay? If you need to cut a reverse curve in the lingual isthmus outline, that means that it is not due to the dimensions of the contact. It is due to the dimensions of the caries. You have caries massively extended towards the lingual. Okay, you should deal with it as you deal with the contact area. Okay, as it is massively extended, you should avoid overextension by uniform curve and you use it as a reverse curve. In conclusion, reverse curve always is needed toward the buccal because the contact is shifted buccal. If you need it towards the lingual, then the cause will be the buccolingual extension of the dental caries. Okay, and this is the reverse curve towards the buccal, uniform curve toward the lingual. Okay, what about the occlusogingival height from up to down to the contact area? How it affects the outline form? It affects the outline form of the proximal to be with step or without step. The default design of any compound cavity is without step. This is the rule. Okay? But if you open the cavity at the level of the bulbal floor without step, you stop at this point and inspect your floor. If there is still a contact or a caries extension in occlusogingival direction at this area, you have one of two choices. Either you lower all the bulbal floor and irritate the bulb, or you are trying to escape from the bulb by having a step. Then, the aim of cutting compound cavity with a step, the aim of this step to level the cavity at two levels is to involve the carious lesion or the contact area or any stagnation area beyond the level of the bulbal floor without endangering the bulb. You are cycling around the bulb. You are running around the bulb without involving the bulb. Okay? Again, the default design is for any compound or complex cavity is without step. You are in need to step according to the occlusogingival height of contact area, of carious lesion, or any stagnation area like any groove running on the buccal or the lingual. Okay? You should stop the cavity at the level of the bulbal floor and inspect it. Okay? If you still have contact area, the contact is not free in a gingival direction, still have a gingival caries, still have a gingival extension of the groove, and instead of lowering the bulbal floor and endangering the bulb, you get around it, okay, and make a step to involve this area without endangering the bulb. Finally, these are the textbooks I used in preparing this lecture. Your questions are always welcome. Thank you for assigning this time to listen to me. I hope it is a light lecture this time. Okay, please remember to join or to subscribe to my channel and to activate the notification, and stay tuned for more lecture and more knowledge. Thank you.